There is a particular quality to the silence of early morning when you're the first one up. It doesn't last long, and you know that before you've even reached the foot of the stairs. Soon there will be voices and the television's insistent chatter, and the particular energy of someone who fills a room without meaning to. But for now, for this brief, unrepeatable now, the house is yours and it's quiet, and something in you exhales that's been held in since the last time this happened. I have spent a long life being someone who needs silence the way other people need company. Not to be alone necessarily, that's a different thing, but to hear myself think, to feel the edges of my own thoughts without them being constantly worn away by noise. It took me longer than it should have to understand that this wasn't a flaw or an antisocial tendency to be managed. It was closer to a necessity, a condition for something. The bards of the ancient traditions knew this. When they sought the deepest inspiration, they didn't gather in loud company. They sat down in dark rooms, in silence, with a stone on the chest to focus the mind. They understood that Awen, the flowing spirit of creative inspiration, wasn't something you generated. It was something you received, and reception requires stillness. In the quiet of that morning moment, I've come to think, is the same silence, the same threshold. The only difference is that the stone on the chest has become a kettle coming to the boil. The ancient bards understood something about creativity that we have largely forgotten, or perhaps buried under the noise of modern life. We tend to think of creative inspiration as something produced, a product of effort and technique, of sitting down and making something happen. And technique matters. The Bardic schools of ancient Ireland trained their poets for 12 years, through 8 grades of study until they could hold 350 stories in memory, alongside hundreds of poems and all the formal rules of composition. They took the craft with absolute seriousness. But underneath all of that rigorous making was a practice of profound stillness. When a bard sought the deepest inspiration, what the Irish called imbas, what the Welsh called Awen, they didn't sharpen their quill and push harder. They lay down in a dark room, in silence, with no light reaching them, and sometimes a stone placed on the chest to quiet the restless mind. And they waited. They were waiting for something to arrive that couldn't be forced. The word Awen is often translated as flowing spirit or the blessings of the gods, but what it points to is an experience of inspiration that comes from beyond the ordinary self, not manufactured but received, not produced but allowed. Which means the first act of creation in the Bardic tradition was silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of readiness. The still pool that is deep enough to hold whatever falls into it. That morning quiet at the foot of the stairs, I recognise it now for what it is, a small daily practice of the same thing. There is a triad in the Welsh tradition that has stayed with me since I first encountered it. The 3 great melodies of creation, the wind in the trees, the stream at snowmelt, the cry of a newborn babe. Now what strikes me about these 3 sounds is that none of them break silence. They emerge from it, the way a thought emerges from the quiet mind, not imposed on the stillness, but arising from within it. The wind in the trees is there before you notice it, and has been there all along. The stream at snowmelt carries in it the long-held breath of winter, finally released. The cry of the newborn is the first sound a particular life makes in the world, arriving out of the silence before existence. These are the sounds the natural world makes when it is most fully itself. Not the noise of human busyness, the traffic, television, the thousand insistencies of modern life, but the voice of something older and more patient, speaking in the only register it has ever known. I've come to think that silence is not the absence of sound so much as the presence of a deeper listening. Standing at a field's edge on a still morning, the sounds that reach you, bird song, wind, the distant movement of water maybe, they don't fill the silence. They inhabit it. They need it in order to be heard at all. The Bard sought that quality of listening deliberately. The dark room and the stone on the chest were ways of stripping back the surface noise until something beneath it became audible. What they were listening for, I think, is what the natural world speaks continuously and freely to anyone patient enough to hear it. The question is simply whether we can be still enough for long enough to let it in. In the Druid tradition, there is a practice of returning in the imagination to a place of deep quiet, a grove, a circle of trees, real or remembered or wholly inner, that exists in a sanctuary beyond the reach of ordinary noise, not an escape from life, but a return to something underneath it. And I want to invite you to that place now in a guided meditation. And you don't need to see it clearly. You don't need a vivid picture forming behind your eyes. A sense of it is enough. The feeling of trees around you, the quality of light that comes through canopy, the way the ground feels different when it's held by roots. And if nothing visual comes, simply feel for the quiet. It will be there. It's always there. Find somewhere comfortable and let your breathing slow. There's nowhere you need to be for the next few minutes. Nothing that requires your attention. Let the sounds around you settle into the background, neither pushed away nor followed, simply allowed to be there while you go somewhere beneath them. And imagine yourself approaching a grove. Perhaps you've walked a little way to reach it, through a field, along a path, across ground that feels familiar, even if you've never been here before. The trees are ahead of you now. You can feel the change in the air as you draw close. Something cooler, quieter, older, and step inside. The circle of trees receives you without ceremony. You're simply here, and the grove is simply here. And between the two of you there's nothing that needs saying. Stand or sit as feels right. Feel the ground beneath you, solid, patient, indifferent to time in the way that the only very old things can be. And now listen. Not for anything in particular, not straining towards a sound or an answer. Just listen the way the grove itself listens, openly, without expectation, with the whole of yourself available. The trees are around you. The quiet is here. And rest in that for a moment longer. There's no hurry. The only thing being asked of you in this moment is to be present to what is already here. Aware of the ground beneath you. Feel its solidity, the deep patience of earth that has held everything that has ever stood or walked or grown upon it. Let it hold you now. You don't have to carry your own weight here. The earth is doing that. And as you rest into that holding, notice you are near water. You may hear it before you find it, a sound beneath the sounds of the grove, quieter than the wind and branches, quieter than your own breathing, a small movement of water somewhere close. Follow it in whatever way feels right, not hurrying, not searching, simply allowing your awareness to move toward the sound. The path takes you a little deeper into the trees. The light changes, softer here, older. The air is cooler and carries the scent of moss, of stone, of water that has come from somewhere deep in the earth. And then you find it, a pool, still and dark, sheltered by the curve of the land and by the trees that lean over it. 9 hazel trees, their branches just touching the water's surface. This is the place the old stories speak of, though you knew it before you heard the stories. Something in you recognizes it. Come to the edge, sit or kneel, or simply stand. Look into the water. It is very still. In its surface you can see the branches above, the small pieces of sky between them, perhaps your own face looking back, though it may look different here, younger or older or simply more itself than usual. Don't fix on the reflection. Let your gaze soften and go deeper into the dark water below the surface. This is a place the Bards came to. Not this exact pool perhaps, but this place, this quality of attention, this willingness to be still and open and waiting. They called what they were waiting for Awen, the flowing spirit, the inspiration that can't be forced, only received. You're not here to make anything, not to produce or perform or achieve. You're here simply to be available. Stay with that for a moment. Let yourself feel what it's like to have no task but this, to be open. Now, if you're willing, let something rise. Not from your thinking mind, that's not where this comes from somewhere deeper. It may come as a word or an image or simply a feeling, a quality, a colour, a direction. It may come as something you've always known but never quite let yourself know. It may not come in any form you recognize as inspiration at all. It may be simply a stillness that feels somehow full rather than empty. Whatever arrives, receive it. Don't grasp it. Don't immediately try to hold on to it or make use of it. Just let it be present with you, the way the pool is present, the way the hazels are present. The hazelnuts fall in their own time. The salmon rises when it rises. You can't hurry either. What you can do is be here, at the pool's edge, patient and open and willing. Sit with whatever has come, or with the quality of waiting itself, for as long as feels right. And when you're ready, give a moment of quiet thanks, not elaborate, not formal, just an acknowledgement that you have been here, that this place exists, that the invitation to return is always open. And then gently begin to become aware of your breathing again, of your body, of the room you're in, the sounds around you, the quality of this moment in your ordinary life. And bring back with you whatever the pool gave you, or the quality of having been there if nothing came in words or images. That quality is itself the gift, the capacity to be still enough, open enough to receive. And take a slow breath, and when you're ready, open your eyes. There's an old story behind the tradition that you just touched. It tells of a sacred pool at the source of a river, surrounded by 9 ancient hazel trees. In its depth swim salmon of extraordinary wisdom, fed by the hazelnuts that fall from the branches above. To find that pool, to arrive at the source after a long journey upstream, is to find the place where inspiration lives, where the noise of the world can't reach, where what has always been true becomes briefly audible. The bards understood themselves as seekers of that pool, not just once in some dramatic moment of initiation, but repeatedly as a practice, returning to the stillness again and again throughout a life. I think the quiet room at morning is one of its forms, the field's edge on a still day is another, the grove you've just visited is another still. Different thresholds into the same deeper country. We carry more noise than any previous generation in human history, and it comes at us from every direction, at every hour, and much of it is designed specifically to hold our attention and refuse to let go. Finding silence has almost become a counter-cultural act, a kind of resistance. The bards who lay in dark rooms knew something about that kind of resistance too, about protecting the inner life from forces that would rather it stayed distracted. The quiet is worth protecting. What lives in it is worth the trouble of the return. I'll close today with a poem written for this episode, in the spirit of that long homecoming. How I welcome you, still water, found at last at the river's source. I've followed the sound of you back through all the years of noise, to where the hazels lean and listen. Here I lay down what I carried. By the terms of this older contract, seeker and source, the long return, I offer the clamour of years in exchange for the quiet. How I welcome you, salmon of silence, moving in depth I cannot reach. In the stillness of your turning, I hear at last what was always there, the word beneath all words, the one that needs no saying. Until next time, may you find your way to the still pool.
I walked where the bracken leans low in the breeze, past stone and the bones of old ways, with nothing but questions that would not be stilled, and the ache of too many days. The road had no marker, the sky held no sign, but something in me understood. There's a place for the quiet that waits out of sight, in the heart of a listening wood. I followed no map, but the pull in my chest, where the river runs thinner and clear, and the world falls away into moss and into shade, and the noise does not follow you here. The trees stood like keepers who'd seen it before, a man come unburdened and slow, with hands full of nothing but all that he'd been, and no place left further to go. Oh, the still, still pool, where the dark runs deep and wide, lay your name down gently there at the water's side. For the truth's not shouted loud nor carried on the wind, it waits where the silence lives and calls you further in. I found it at last, where the hazel roots drink from a mirror unbroken by time. No ripple nor whisper, no edge to its face, just a depth that felt older than mine. And there in the turning of shadow and light, a movement that barely was seen, a flicker of silver that slipped through the dark, like a thought in the space in between. I knelt with the weight of a life on my back, and the words I had carried so long. But the pool had no hunger for all that I knew, and no ear for the shape of a song. So I laid it all down like a coat in the dust, every question, each name and each claim, and the quiet came over me, steady and sure, till I could not remember my name. Oh, the still, still pool, where the dark runs deep and wide, Lay your name down gently there, let the water decide. For the truth's not shouted loud, nor carried on the wind. It waits where the silence lives and calls you further in. No voice spoke out, no hand reached through, no fire fell from above. But something turned, and something still, and something opened in love. I rose with no answers to carry away, no treasure to bind or to hold. But the weight had gone from the bones of my frame, and the world felt quieter, whole. And now when the clamor comes closing me in, and the days grow heavy and loud, I remember place where the water runs still, and I follow the path I was shown. Oh, the still, still pool where the dark runs deep and wide. Lay your name down gently there, let the water decide. For the truth's not shouted loud, nor carried on the wind. It waits where the silence lives and calls you home again.